Hi, friends. Host Eric here. And I'm the Huesto de Taquiendo de Famous de People Place. How long have you waited? Octavio, welcome. I'm nobody's liege, but thank you. How long have you waited? Doesn't it seem like we're always just waiting for shit? It seems like that to me. Like when I was sleeping last night. I was just waiting to wake up in the morning. Like you're always just waiting for something, right? What are we all waiting for? Well, I'm kind of like waiting for something to happen, quote unquote. Whatever the fuck that is, right? Something to happen that'll make everything interesting again. No, I slept last night. I slept. I had a battle with the cat. So the cat is not supposed to the cat's not supposed to sleep in the big house. But Rachel was out here sleeping and I was in the big house sleeping. And the cat really wanted to come in and sleep in the bed with me. And I kept telling her, no, you can't come in here. She kept scratching at the door. Finally, she won. I let her in. I said, go outside. Go see Rachel in the nest. Yeah. So, one of the things I'm waiting for right now is I'm waiting to find out how this debate thing that's going on is going to pan out with my debater and his shitty school. You know, it's like I'm not opposed to the idea of getting a full-time job. I could do that again. I probably should. But I don't really want to. I mean, I feel like I'm retired, kind of, you know, but I'm only not even 50 years old, so I can't really retire yet. But you know, I tried to go back to sleep this morning when I got up at 7 or whatever, a little before 7. I just couldn't go back to sleep. When I was in middle school, I read there was a study that found that people spent 30% of their lives waiting. That struck terror into your little 12-year-old heart. Well, AK 4077, beginning with I'm a C.S. Joseph fan, kind of invalidates what you say afterwards. It's like saying, I believe that frogs cause the plague, and then proceeding with something else. You're probably right, though, I should say, AK 407, that if I looked more presentable, that idiots like you would take me more seriously because they aren't paying attention to what I'm saying, just how I look. They're literally judging a book by its cover. So, obviously, if I wanted to appeal to idiots, then I would do that. You know, Yeah, exactly. If people think that the legitimacy of what I say is dependent on their perceptions of my appearance, then I don't care what they think. I mean, they're not smart people. School is not a place for smart people, as Rick once said, you know. Winston's mom goes TE approach. I like that. That's clever. The thing is, the real bottom line is AK4077 is that I mostly YouTube because I like to live stream and hang out with my friends online and chat with people and stuff. That's mostly what I do. And there's nothing wrong with that. It certainly is a lot more honest than what C.S. Joseph is doing. I mean, if you like wrong answers better than no answers, then that you're not alone. There are lots of people who have ambiguity intolerance. But yeah, you know, the basic problem I have, good for him. The basic problem I have is follow through. You know, it's like I might get motivated for a stretch of time to look nicer, use the green screen, etc. But it's difficult for me to that was a good bong rip. That was a really good one for first bong rip of the morning. I didn't suffer from morning lung. You've waited eons. It feels like I've waited eons as well. I definitely feel like I'm waiting right now. I'm waiting for some determination of a course of action. You know, it's like if my current one client situation dries up. Now, granted, I'm being a bit pissy about the whole thing. So it's like I'm basically kind of no, I'm not going to teach English for you anymore because I don't want to teach English. You know, like they have me working with their debater on debate, but then they also have me doing English with their kids periodically. But I don't want to go back to being an English teacher. It's boring. And everybody has an opinion about it, and everybody's opinion is wrong. So it's like I'm constantly battling parents and administrators about how to do the job that they have no idea how to do. But they feel like they can tell me how to do it better. It's insane. Like everybody wants you to teach their kids writing. You can't teach writing. Okay, you can't teach writing. That's the simple truth of the matter. You can teach lots of things, but you can't teach writing. Reportedly, teaching writing Dunning-Kruger is the scourge of our era. And it's a good point, Genexial, because the more specialized people get, the less non-specialists can conceive of the depth of the specialty. I'm a private coach. I am a private coach. I had my own school for a while. I had a fairly big and successful debate school for a few years. But what I mean by writing can't be taught is that writing is best taught by reading. You know, you learn to write by reading a lot. And also writing is best sort of taught by not being taught, by just intuitives are good at it. You know, some people are naturally good at it and some people aren't. And when we try to treat it as though it were a skill set rather than a holistic NI thing, then we do it a disservice. The educational system is a complete joke. Except for debate. Debate's not a joke. My mom has quite the skill set, let me tell you. I've heard that from a lot of different guys. Apparently, she was quite the lover. To do a better job of answering your question, Octavia Silva. Hi, Noir. What I mean is this: when I'm teaching grammar, there's I can document the progress really easily, and I can say specifically what it is. Like, okay, so now these students can identify a noun clause, regardless of where it's working in the sentence, successfully. You know, and they can diagram the sentence. By the time I'm done teaching grammar, the students at the beginning didn't know anything because nobody teaches grammar properly, and at the end understand everything. That's teaching. That's what teaching is. You start with something that is clearly defined as not understood and clearly defined as what it is. And at the end, you have that clearly defined thing, what it is, that is understood and is demonstrably understood in concrete ways. That's teaching. Okay, well, Octavia Silva, scene fiction is something that I've taught before. And it's not because I'm especially great at it, but rather because I get the concept of it. And that is something that can be taught, is how to structure a novel. I could teach that. But that's not what typically, it's like middle school parents don't want their kids taught how to write a novel. So that's a slightly different point there, Octavia Silva. It is true that you can teach some elements of narrative construction. And so in that regard, you're right that it's not unteachable. But what I'm saying is, like, essay writing and shit, which is what they want you to teach in school, it's such a waste of time, and it's so offensive to me. You want me to make these kids express themselves in writing, but you're not asking them to do that. You're asking them to do some sort of practice assignment that's pointless and that nobody's ever going to read, nobody would ever want to read in a million billion years. Yeah, that's and it shows you how cognitive functions are, right? It's like, I can't decide on a plot. Well, which plot to use? I've got a million of them, you know? Look, if they want to teach writing to kids, they should have kids begin a blog or something when they're fairly young and actually have them publish their writing and possibly get some sort of audience for it. If there's no concern about an audience, if there's no pressure to do a better job for the audience, then how's anybody going to learn anything? Spin the plot wheel. So Octavia Silva, it's like, in some sense, you and I could probably coordinate well together. I have problems understanding characters. Like my characters, when I when I fail at fiction, it's because my characters aren't distinct enough. They don't resonate as real people. They talk the same as each other and stuff like that. Those are some of my flaws. I have trouble writing real characters because I'm bipolar, I guess, you know. I'm all about ideas and not really all about people. I would suspect Noir to answer on behalf of Octavia Silva that any polar doesn't so much have a hard time finding words for what they want to express as they have a hard time finding alternatives to those words. It's like, I think ISFPs and ISTPs have no trouble coming up with the first idea. It's the branching shit off of that gives them problems. It's like you ask them for an NI answer to something, they'll give you an NI answer to something. Well, that seems particularly well articulated, Octavia Silva. I understand what you're saying exactly. So, way to disprove your own point, Octavia Silva. Way to disprove your own point. ISTPs don't struggle because they aren't that, they're kind of shallow, you know? There's something kind of shallow about ISTPs. ISFPs, because they're FI, they've got that dampness that just sort of goes down indefinitely, you know? But ISTPs are like kind of intuitives without intuition, you know? They don't really care about people, but they don't really care about ideas either. So it's like you're just left with these kind of well, that's what Octavia Silva says here. ISTPs are no thoughts head empty, and we love them for that. I totally agree with the first half of that sentence. Noir says, I'm bad at writing because I think what I say isn't really what I mean, and I have trouble finding the right words. Well, I don't know if that's TI polar, but it definitely is an FI thing. FI people have that idea that the words they say aren't really what they mean. They're somebody, I think it was Email Anthrax expressed it earlier. No, Chris Chapin expressed it earlier. Eric, you're using words all wrong. Words are just blurry clouds that give you a vague feeling. And then you can use more words to relate it to other feelings. And then you have an idea. That's the FI understanding of words. Third slot NI seems to only NI 2 or 3 weeks into the future, based on your observations. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't spent a whole lot of time in real life anyway around ISFPs or ISTPs, although I did spend a fair amount of time with Katie, who's an ISFP, and with what's his name? God, I can't believe I forgot his name. Colin. Colin, the ISTP. Oh, my beauty. I have over here an incredible beauty, and I'm going to share this beauty with you right now. Oh, yes. What an incredible beauty. Oh, the PNP. What a beautiful, incredible, beautiful kitty friend. Your beautiful kittiness is constantly re-astonishing me again for the first time forever. Oh, kitty beauty. Kitty beauty makes me have FI. Do you see me, FI? Oh, my beautiful kitty friend. She's writing a book. It's similar to writing a book, but it's what happens before you start writing a book. Like, I'm writing like 4 different books right now or something. I mean, I need like a secretary to go through all of my documents and go, this one's almost done, Eric. You just didn't finish the last page. I'm sure there's shit like that all through my documents. How old is beautiful kitty now? She is, let's see. She's about coming up on 4 years old. She's about 3 3/4 years old. She was born in my bed next to me. That's not a bad idea, Winston's mom. But the thing is, what I really, I am much more able to work with people watching me work. That's always been the case. Third slot FE, I guess. One of those guys who had an easier time doing other people's homework than his own. But it's a daunting task. It's a big and daunting task. Kitty watching doesn't help. Kitty doesn't give me enough FE. I have finished a couple of books, but I'm not really happy with any of them. I do go live a lot. I mean, I live stream, like, even now when I'm not on any Adderall. I'm still live streaming probably multiple times a day, which is kind of crazy. But it's just how I am. I like to talk on the internet with random people about random things. Hi, Lucas Martinez. How are you today? Would you like a bong rip? Yeah, well, I'd be happy to make you a uh, person who can get into the channel and do shit, or whatever that is. Adderall messes with your intuition. You know, I have a mixed relationship with Adderall. You know, like right now I'm not on it, but I am about half the month usually. And I get a lot of stuff done during that half a month, but it's not necessarily executing. Well, I mean, you know, I usually get a song done every month. Writing and recording a song requires a lot of attention. I don't think NI-DOMs handle it well. I know my friend Corey used to do speed with me. He didn't handle it nearly as well as I did. I've never heard of. The thing is, I find myself using less and less as I get older. It requires less for some reason. Yeah, Adderall's ENTP friendly. I mean, my daughter, who's an ESTP, also takes it, but she doesn't take it like I take it at all. You know, she gets a prescription filled. It's supposed to last a month. It'll last a lot longer than that for her because she doesn't quote unquote doesn't like it, doesn't like how it makes her feel. Do I turn into an SI user? No, I turn into a full blast ENTP, double ENTP. It's like I'm doing the same thing I'm doing now, but double time. It's like I have trouble seeing through any idea to its conclusion. It's my number one problem. It's what people would refer to as an executive function disorder. Adderall does solve that for me, but what I actually get done may or may not be what I thought I wanted to get done before I took the Adderall. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, NI-DOMs like to drink alcohol or can, you know. See, that's the thing, Chris Chapman. By and large, one of the reasons and one of the most important reasons why ESTPs and ENTPs can handle Adderall and probably other types can't is that there's a come down that purportedly has a lot of negative emotional stuff in it. I don't really experience that. I get SI instead of FI come down. So I just crash and eat. Although I got to say, bye, Running Fox. I got to say, this time I felt a little depressed. But that has to do with the world, I think, more than me. Anyway, so when I get my prescription refill, I get 60 pills. And I usually start taking it as prescribed, two pills a day. And then at some point, you know, I'll be low on sleep and I'll need to take more to get the same effect. And usually it lasts about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. You know, I tend to be a little surprised when it runs out. Like, huh? I I didn't think I was taking very much, but no problem, Noir. If you're talking to me or whoever you're talking to. I mean, I don't feel like I don't feel like I'm unhappy with my current approach. The thing is, by the time I get to the end of a cycle, I'm ready to be done. That's partially why I run out when I do, is like I go, fuck it, I'm tired of being on speed. You know? I'm exhausted. Uh so it's like, you know, I've had the same prescription now for years and years. I haven't tried to increase it or anything. I I used to I used to take more. I used to access additional speed more, a lot more. Now I'll occasionally, hypothetically, fictionally, hit up Delilah for a pill or two, but very rarely. You don't understand why they don't give me a lower dose to take consistently? Um, I don't want to take it like that. It's not that they don't give me a lower dose to take consistently. It's that I like getting sprung. So, you know, the thing is, it doesn't take very much for me to get sprung. I've always been a lightweight in almost all drugs, like except for marijuana. I'm not a lightweight in marijuana, but even when I was, you want to ask random strangers to teach you to drink. Teach me to drink. I've never learned how. What's a good drug for TE dominance? I'm not sure, but I would suggest that a possibility would be what's it called? It's called like Monacat or something like that. It's this drug that they use for swing shift people or swing shift sleep disorder. Provigil, I think it's sometimes called. It has a weirdly similar effect in terms of outcomes to amphetamines, but it doesn't make you feel good. Just makes you feel irritated. Octavia Silva, that must be because you're so true to yourself all the time anyway. Being an FI Dom. I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I don't drink. I can't drink. It's yeah. Last time you took Provigil, you gritted your teeth the entire time I did. It does tend to make you grit your teeth, metaphorically and literally. What's Cloud's type? Swift Eagle. I think you might be right. Well, Cloud, that's exactly what a BRNG would say. BRNGs are always saying that. Uh, you know what I am, you guys? I'm two things. I'm strong and I'm beautiful. Booth Raider Ninsberg. I am strong and I am beautiful. That's exactly what a BRNG would say, Cloud. You just proven you're a BRNG over and over again. Everything you do and say is exactly what a BRNG would do and say. I'm the world's foremost expert on the BRNG INTER typology system, and I'm credentialed as such by all licenses all the time. Rachel is indeed sleeping. I had to switch rooms with her. I always feel bad when she's sleeping out here, and I go, okay, I need the computer. Top definition of burung, Indonesian word for bird, but also used to describe the male-specific body part. Do you want to see my burung? No, thank you. But I appreciate the offer. How do you people always seem to get me to waste an hour when I'm trying to do stuff? Octavio, I could ask you the same question. I'm not really trying to do stuff. I feel full of sighs right now. Full of sighs. You didn't have any quotes around that. Princess Mom. Those were just imaginary quotes you put, I guess. My coffee's ready. So, last I heard, the stalker hadn't followed up. You know, he indicated like he hadn't watched the video, and then as far as I can tell, that's the last contact from him so far, and I suspect it will be, because of course as soon as you go on offense, you know, this guy is trying to push somebody around whom he believes is push aroundable, and when all of a sudden the tables turn, boy, do those people run like crazy, you know. You know, it's a really great song, and a song that sort of elicits lots of a specific movie moments is the Dean Martin song, Ain't That a Kick in the Head? Ain't that a kick in the head? You know that song? It's a great song, and ain't that a hole in the boat? It's like it must have been used in 100 different movies, but I don't have any specific reference to point to. I can't say, for example, movie Mia. It was in Kickboxer. Well, you know, you can picture that song playing over a couple of different things, like as the guy watches all of his plans fall apart and like shit's going wrong in every direction, and he's going like this, and then they're playing that song. You know, that's one sort of setup or whatever. Another one it could be is like a bunch of explosions. Yeah, right. Hero Lamb. That song sounds like, oh well, fuck it. And jolly though, even though the lyrics are sad. It's totally fatalistic, you know. Like, well, shit happens. Bye, Octavia Silva. I don't know. I can't name a single specific movie that it was in, but you know, it's like it's one of those songs that you think, I've heard this in lots of movies. I think that that song is also, to me, it's like the best representative song of that era and the Rat Pack and stuff. It's the most Rat Packy of all Rat Pack songs. Gary Go Wonderful. I don't know what that is. I like the idea of a Lord of the Rings where Gollum successfully takes back the ring, Frodo walks all the way home, and things go back to the way they were before the Lord of the Rings started. Why yada? Right. It'll be curtains here. Curtains. It'll be curtains for you. When people say that in the old movies, that's a threat as well. You know? Your goose is cooked. Now, listen here, Sonny. We don't take any stool pigeons. Your goose is cooked. It's curtains for you. You hear? There's probably some specific actor that talked most like that people are imitating when they imitate that era, you know? Can you ask an advice question? Sure. Yeah, That's Life is another example of that, Hero Lamb. I made a playlist of songs like that. I called it Memory Lane. You know, it's also got the great song at the end of Doctor Strangelove on that playlist. We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Da 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 da. Ba-na-na, ba-ba-dun, dun, 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 oh, da-na. Ba-na-na. The da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da-da, ba-da-da-da-da, ba-ba-da-da-da. We'll meet again. It's such a good song. It's so swinging, you know? Yeah, you gotta smoke a cigarette back when you're in the 1940s. When you are reliving your 40s era days, you gotta smoke a cigarette. Ideally, it would be a non-filter. You know, that's one of the things I like best about this Steve MRE guy who eats the old rations is he also smokes the old cigarettes that they put in the ration packs. So he'll get like an old Camel and filter from a World War II ration pack or whatever, and he'll smoke it. I know, right? Winston's mom, this whole virus shit is just nuts. Okay, so Winston's mom indicates that James Cagney is the one that everybody is probably imitating there when they go, "There'll be curtains for you. You hear? Curtains here. We don't want no stoolies around. No stool pigeons. Your goose is cooked." The coppers are here. Hero Lamb, interestingly, depends on how well preserved you dirty rat. You dirty rat. That's definitely one that James Cagney said all the time. It depends on how well preserved the MRE pack is. What he had a Chelsea brand cigarette the other day I saw from like a 1945 ration pack, and he said it was still pretty good. A little dry, but pretty good, you know. Yeah, I bet. You know, it's funny seeing that. I was thinking to myself, man, I want to smoke one of those. I actually had some weird ass cigarettes I got off eBay one time that were I smoked one of them, but it was like early kind of menthol. It was strange. I thought like I wouldn't be surprised if this thing has like an asbestos filter or something. You know, it's just like how would I describe the relationship between INFP and INTP? I don't know. I'm surprised they ever developed a relationship. It's like, when were they both out of the house at the same time? I'm not sure. I don't think I really know any such. Well, I can think of one actually. I know. It didn't go well. They got too close. They they weren't in a position to be intimate, and then they were. Promising, but ultimately disappointing if both are not aware of how each is going over the other's head. Well, it would be like INTJ, kind of, I guess. No, it'd be like ESTP, I guess. It'd be like the equivalent of ESTP. I can tell you the ESTP, ENTP relationships are that was 2 days ago, Blue Nowhere, I think. It's okay. I need to learn to keep my cool. That's the bottom line. I need to learn to keep my cool. And that's one of the things that that this channel is teaching me to do more successfully. Mm-hmm. Well, we did have a genuine disagreement, but it's reductive to call it just that. I mean, your position is appalling. Heard you don't like Miles Davis. I mean, there's one Miles Davis album that's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, here's the interesting thing about that Tom Jokes. Do I think the business relationship in socioeconomics accurately describes ENTP, ESTP? I don't know exactly how socioeconomics describes the relationship. One of my challenges is that my primary example, my primary SI source on the matter is my daughter. Now, an ENTP, ESTP father-daughter relationship is great in the sense that no, it's allowed. I probably shouldn't have timed you out. That was my mistake. But you know, there's not much difference between advocating violence because you're a racist and advocating violence because you're a socialist. And, you know, it's like just because you couch it in other language doesn't change the fact that's what you're doing. And I don't like it. So I'm going to tell you that. But I need to be supportive of more discourse rather than less. And I need most of all to keep my cool. So that's what it boils down to. I'm INFP and I'm getting close to an INTP girl that I've known already for 6 years. Now there's an INTP INFP relationship. It takes 6 years. And then they start getting pretty close. Of course, during that 6 years, they've actually been in physical company of one another 7 times. So, you know, it's difficult. I think you get worked up easy sometimes, but you seem to move on or don't hold a grudge. So that's a good thing. That's true. I don't hold grudges. I tend to forget all about the battles soon enough. That's not meaningful, Blue Nowhere, what you just said. You need a mix of capitalism and socialism. Capitalism is not a thing. Capitalism is the absence of violence preventing people from doing what they want. Socialism is the presence of violence forcing people to do what they don't want. They aren't something you mix together. They are exclusive of each other. Just recently met an INFP I was talking to. We were literally happy as pen pals for years. Okay, well, look. There are lots of ways in which a pure and just capitalism is vulnerable, and we ought to regulate to some extent to prevent those vulnerabilities from destroying the ability of individuals to do what they want on a fair playing field. I mean, we definitely need to take some effort to increase fairness and such, but we shouldn't, we shouldn't lie about what it is we're advocating. And that's the problem that makes me so offended with Blue Nowhere's position. It's like Blue Nowhere has been advocating using force to deal with COVID from the outset. It doesn't acknowledge it. It's offensive. But I don't want to argue with you right now, Blue Nowhere. Look, the thing is, I also believe in environmental regulations. As a California resident, I've seen the incredible amount of good that's been done by catalytic converters and the smog regulations. We used to have third stage smog alerts all the time. And when I was a kid, we had smog alerts. It was as bad as it was recently with all the smoke. And that's been fixed. And we don't really have smog in LA anymore. It used to be a super smoggy place, not smoggy anymore. I've been to China. I've seen what it looks like when you have socialism, where you don't have environmental regulations. And it's awful. So we can see that socialism is not the answer to any of our problems. Socialism is just an oligarchy with different oligarchs. Well, I know precisely what we ought to do about it. Adapt to it and try to there is no such thing as a capitalist society. Being able to capitalize on assets and resources and stuff like that is an implicit part of human experience, right? This is the problem with this idea that capitalism is a competing system. It's not. Capitalism is simply the absence of violence preventing people from doing what they want. Well, but see, Hero Lamp, they're not operating as capitalists at all. So that's why you've got places like Wuxidong. Wuxidong is a city that I visited when I was in China, and it was nothing, empty countryside. And then somebody decreed that there would be massive construction projects there. And they building tons of skyscrapers out of nowhere, just all of a sudden. No market is driving that. So remember that when you say that they're like crony capitalists. There are plenty of things that need to be regulated to prevent excesses, abuses, and making structural unfairnesses. Plenty of kinds of reasonable regulatory actions that we can take to I am not an objectivist, Blue Nowhere, by any stretch of the imagination. I'm being honest about the way things are, and you're being fundamentally dishonest. That's what's happening here. That's why I get so offended, because I don't like your dishonesty. I am not a disciple of Ayn Rand at all. I've just been talking about all the various forms of regulation that I support because I'm a realist, a correctist. I'm not in fantasy land and lying to myself. I don't pretend when I'm not holding the gun and pointing it at somebody's head that my policy doesn't do that. That's what you pretend. And that's what makes you wicked fundamentally in your advocacy. Bill Burkett has it summed up pretty neatly and correctly right there. It's about freedom and autonomy versus tyranny. Anything in the way of freedom should be fought against. Sometimes that's exploited in businesses. Absolutely. But more often than not, it's big government. And from a TE perspective, I think Swift Eagle's got a good point here as well. It's about power changing hands. It's like that's probably the best TE frame I've ever heard about political reality. Power needs to change hands. It's when somebody thinks that they've got the vision that's going to clearly lead everything into the future forever. You've got a problem. I'm not watching that shit. I can't stand it. I mean, climate change. Here's the thing about climate change. If you want to evaluate it meaningfully, first, tell me what the curve is on carbon. Is it a straight line? Does it have diminishing returns? Is it accelerating? Does anybody know? It's funny how everybody has a position on climate change and nobody can answer this basic question. I mean, I don't accept your justifications, so it doesn't matter to me. Those correlations probably have very little to do with socialism and much more to do with something else. But okay, well, regardless, your justifications don't work for me. You are justifying things with utilitarian justifications. You're not a principlist. When people like you who use those kind of justifications get in charge, then they have no limiting principles. They are amoral and they victimize the world. I won't allow that kind of discourse to determine policy. First, we must make a principled decision. So you don't believe that. That's what makes you wicked in your advocacy. You don't believe in principled restraint. You think that if you can pile up some impacts that appear to be good enough, you can justify shoving a gun in anyone's face. I disagree with that fundamentally. Your approach to justifying things is fundamentally wrong. Look, the thing is this. We do have massive environmental problems to which we need to adapt and attempt to solve. We need to absolutely not attempt to mitigate. Should we have carbon taxes or carbon caps? No, we shouldn't. Why? Because it's true that all the carbon we're emitting is causing warming, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't emit the carbon. It means we should solve it on the other end like we do any other problem. The exact perfect analogy is when cities grew up bigger and people had too much poop and pee to deal with, right? They didn't try to get people to poop and pee less. They dealt with the poop and pee better. And that's as simple as it is. I mean, it's so simple, right? It's not difficult to think well, but people tend to refuse to do so. So is it a good idea to unilaterally limit carbon emissions in the United States? Most leftists would tell you yes, even though that would produce a dirtier world and increase carbon emissions. It's not like those gaps in the market won't be filled by somebody, and they'll be filled by people who are producing the goods in a more dirty fashion than the United States would. And it's as simple as think. Don't be dumb. Don't be willfully dumb. Now, Blue Nowhere, do you believe in carbon taxes and carbon caps? Did I just change your opinion on it? I should have. Can you answer the question, what's the curve on carbon? Okay, but can you answer the question, what's the curve on carbon? If you can't answer that question, you shouldn't have any opinion on it. And you should be ashamed of yourself for having an opinion on it. So I just explained to you why they're a bad idea and actually harm the environment. So you should now change your position on it. Right? So what happens with carbon caps and carbon taxes? Blue nowhere. What happens? Do we reduce the amount of carbon entering the atmosphere or increase it? And why? Blue nowhere. This is what it means to think. This is what it means to think. You've got to actually go through and walk through the things and think of them out. So, do you believe in carbon taxes and carbon caps because you believe that those things cause there to be less carbon in the atmosphere? If so, you're wrong about that because the gaps in the market get filled by more dirty production in India, in Brazil, in China, in Russia. So do you still hold that position? Or have you been cured of your wrongness? Why aren't you answering my questions? I asked you if you know what the curve is on carbon emissions in the atmosphere and warmth. Do you know what the curve is? Is it meow? Is it meow? Is it? Why aren't you answering my questions? Even Margaret, I'm not saying climate change doesn't exist. Did you think? I mean, talk about an irrelevant response, Blue Nowhere. I'm asking you concrete questions that will help you to think. At this point, you're choosing to not think. You're choosing to be wrong. You have a chance to answer questions that would help you to be more right, and you're avoiding them. Shame on you. Shame on you. Okay, Blue Nowhere, why aren't you answering any of my questions? I asked a specific question that has a specific answer. Do you know what the curve is on carbon emissions? Is it like this, or like this? You haven't answered any of my questions. Do you know what the curve is? No. Do you know what the curve between carbon emissions and warmth is? In other words, as we increase the amount of carbon, does it continue to cause warmth at a steady rate, a straight line? Does it cause increasing warmth, a runaway greenhouse effect, or is it diminishing returns? Do you know? If so, you're the only one who does. It does what? Which of those three things, Blue Nowhere? Is it a runaway greenhouse? Is it a straight line? Or is it diminishing returns? You're not answering my question, Blue Nowhere. Which one is it? You see, so you don't deserve my attention anymore. You don't deserve any attention from anybody about any public policy because you don't think. You are not thinking, and that's not okay. When you're advocating that everybody be forced to go along with your ideas, you need to actually think. Since you refuse to think, it is not acceptable for you to advocate public policy. It's immoral, it's wicked, and you deserve the shaming. No, I'm asking you a fucking concrete question. Which is the curve? I don't have an ideological view on this. I have an actual practical, pragmatic view on it. That we show no indication whatsoever that any carbon cap or any carbon tax is going to actually lower emissions because of the gaps in the market that get filled in by the BRIC countries, and their production is much dirtier than the West's. Now, you nevertheless want to move forward with this plan, right? You nevertheless want to move forward with this plan. You want to cause the problem to worsen. When I ask you, hey, isn't it possible that carbon and warming is a diminishing returns kind of a thing? You have no answer and insist that I'm being ideological by asking concrete questions that matter. Shame on you. So why do you have an opinion about it, Blue Nowhere? Why are you advocating in favor of carbon caps and carbon taxes, as you indicated earlier, if you don't even know anything? This is what it means to fail to think. You have failed to think. Blue Nowhere, you are incorrect. They have been used by some countries, but they have not produced a net reduction in carbon emissions overall in the world. In that location, they may have, but they increase carbon emissions elsewhere, the balloon effect. But you have an opinion about it anyway, even though you don't deserve to because you don't know anything. This is the problem. People who don't think and don't know anything have opinions about stuff. If we want to reduce carbon in the atmosphere, then let's sequester carbon. Die, die. I try. Sometimes I get frustrated. I'm a human being, you know. Conforms to my ideological view. I'm not like you, Blue Nowhere. I'm not an ideologue. I'm a realist, a pragmatist, and a principled person. I mean, this is the thing about advocating public policy. You can advocate public policy as long as you have an agent. I advocate that the EU pass certain is a reasonable advocacy. I advocate that countries in general that don't cap emissions should start. I mean, I'm living in fantasy land because I'm really trying to advocate that we unilaterally do so while refusing to acknowledge that the rest of the countries will not. It's so disingenuous and so shamefully wrong, it's offensive. So, okay. I'm going to wrap this up. I got to poop. Goodbye.